Our story is about a king who defied the gods with his arrogance and a daughter who struggled to cope with his tragic fate. Erysichthon. No one remembers him for his respect toward the gods. He cared only for himself, took whatever he wanted without hesitation, and never considered the consequences. And so, with great arrogance, he made the decision that would seal his fate in history. He wanted to build a magnificent hall for his palace, but for that, he needed the finest timber, and that timber was in a sacred place. He entered Demeter's sacred grove. No one dared to stop him. He saw the great oak tree and swung his axe. But at that moment, something strange happened. The tree trembled. Blood gushed from its trunk. A piercing scream echoed. It was the final breath of a tree nymph who had served Demeter. With her last strength, she called upon the goddess for vengeance. By the time Demeter heard what had happened, she already knew how she would punish him. The one to carry out the punishment lived in distant lands, a terrifying being, the goddess of hunger. Yes, Erysichthon's punishment would not be poverty or decay, but an endless, insatiable hunger. In the dead of night, the goddess of hunger crept up to the king and breathed upon him. From that moment on, nothing could stop what was about to happen. The next morning, Erysichthon dreamt of a grand feast. The tables were overflowing with the rarest delicacies. But when he opened his eyes, he felt a gnawing emptiness inside him. He ate everything he could find, yet no matter how much he consumed, his hunger only grew stronger. He devoured all the food in the palace, but it wasn't enough. He emptied the city's granaries, sold his lands, and still his hunger raged on. In the end, there was only one thing left, his own daughter, Mestra. Mestra was sacrificed to her father's hunger. He sold her to the highest bidder. But Mestra refused to accept this fate. She had already been enslaved once before. Poseidon had abducted her, and her destiny had been controlled by another. But Poseidon had also given her a gift, the power to change form. And so she decided to use this power to save herself. She transformed into a fisherman, created a distraction, and escaped. But in that moment, she realized that her ability held another possibility. When Erysichthon discovered Mestra's gift, he saw it as nothing more than another way to feed his hunger. He sold her over and over again, but each time she transformed and escaped, a mare, a deer, a bird. Yet still, her father's hunger remained unquenched. And then, one day, she returned home in another form, only to find her father's lifeless body. Erysichthon had been so consumed by hunger that he had devoured his own flesh, bringing about his own end. Mestra took a deep breath. At last, her life belonged to her. She no longer had to change her shape to adapt to the world around her. She could finally carve her own path. And so, the day Mestra truly became free was the day her father consumed himself. Erysichthon's story is a warning about the dangers of greed and arrogance. But what about Mestra? Do you think she truly found freedom in the end? Share your thoughts in the comments.